1993年 Bola Ahmed Tinubu 向美国政府交出46万美元，此前芝加哥一家法院认定这笔收入来自海洛因贩运。
Speech presented by Dr. Barry Avotu Johnson I, the country director of the Vote Must Count International Initiative, on the event of the VMCII.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're watching from. I'm Okocha Happy Marcel, and this is my channel. A group has called for the withdrawal of the Nobel Prize of Professor Soyinka, following his statements against the Obidati movement and also Mr. Dati, and his silence regarding the 25th of February presidential election and the 18th of March gubernatorial election. Listen to the group as they declare.
This press briefing have practically entered its 6th edition in the recognition to the fact that the Nigerian voters have continued to fathom why their votes did not count at a time in our political history. Under the distinguished gentlemen of the press, under the underlisted are some of the matters arising over the week from political actors who have placed themselves in corners to continue to take Nigeria backward for their selfish reasons and interests. It should interest you to know that last week, one Professor Wole Soyinka issued some disgruntled statements in support of the rejected INEC results announced in favor of the APC candidate who was his personal friend over the years. We in the VMCII see these statements as a supportive voice made in sentiments to build up general public endorsement for the illegitimate announcement of INEC fake results in favor of the ruling party. If anyone tells us a person like Wole Soyinka will stoop this low after all the values he created for himself over the years, we will refuse to agree. This is very shameful and we reject it in totality. With such an attitude, we call on the Nigerian children and students, both home and abroad, to boycott the purchase and usage of any academic materials written or crafted by Mr. Wole Soyinka in solidarity to the restoration of the mandate given by Nigerians to their preferred political party and candidate on the presidential election day. Again, we see that Mr. Wole Soyinka's professorship certificate award must be questioned for the character displayed so far on the issues of forcing Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu as president of Nigeria against the wishes of the Nigerian people. We hereby call on the permanent secretary of the organization in charge of the Nobel Prize called the Swedish Academy, who awarded Mr. Wole Soyinka with the title of the Nobel Prize in Literature, to officially withdraw the Nobel Prize status on the person of Mr. Wole Soyinka immediately. This withdrawal will help to disassociate themselves from the disgruntled supporter of an electoral fraud, the instability of the democracy of Nigeria, and the growth of our electoral processes. The withdrawal of this Nobel Prize will go a long way to also create a much more better valued respect for the Swedish Academy and its activities over the years. A personality like Mr. Wole Soyinka relating to the support he has given to an illegitimate president-elect declared by the worst government election agency in the world is a sign that the democracy of Nigeria is under attack and must be defended by the international community, where democracy is battered with the clean water of trust, hope, and service to humanity. Mr. Wole Soyinka must apologize to Nigerians as the only way to take himself out of the disgruntled character displayed after enjoying the patronage of Nigerians over the years in the sales of his books and academic materials. On behalf of all those who voted on the 25th of February 2023 for the presidential candidate of their choice, we ask everybody from the north, south, east, and west of Nigeria to come out on the streets to register their grievances on the rejection of the presidential election result announced by INEC against the wish of the Nigerian people. Just to remind Nigerians and the international community that in 2011 and 2015, President Buhari and the APC promised to form a parallel government on May 29 if the mandate of Nigerians were not transmitted to them as winners of the said elections and the walls of Nigeria did not fall as a nation. Buhari went ahead to say the blood of the baboons will do whatever, and the DSS did not ask him why. We therefore call on the Nigerian people and the international community to note that we as citizens of Nigeria who voted on the presidential election day shall also form a parallel government come May 29, 2023, if the mandate of the people is not reviewed by INEC and President Buhari, as the Electoral Act provides in regards to the usage of the voting results as presented by the beavers machines on election day. Meaning that we, the Nigerian people, shall not recognize the APC drug leader, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, as our president, and this is because the election that presented him as president-elect was filled with election irregularities and discrepancies that the world have seen as the highest in any election on earth. Even as the Court of Appeal gets ready to hear the cases presented to it by the Labour Party, the NNPP, and the PDP against INEC, and the APC, President Buhari, I beg your pardon, let me take it again. Even as the Court of Appeal gets ready to hear the cases presented to it by the Labour Party, NNPP, and the PDP against INEC and the APC, President Muhammadu Buhari and INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu still have 49 days to clear their names as enemies of our democracy. This government must do the needful by obeying the laws of the Electoral Act in all its ramifications. Fellow Nigerians, we like to let you know that if you continue to sit at home in your comfort zones, the liberty that comes with a true democracy and integrity of good governance will never be given the opportunity to influence any positive change in our politics and economy. Your presence at every protest will go a long way to buttress the image of a genuine fight for the democracy that will rebirth a nation of our dreams. It is very positive to note that this present government, chaired by President Muhammadu Buhari and the APC leadership, is reckless in indebting Nigeria by the continued borrowing of funds from foreign organizations at last minute of handing over power to a new administration. It is therefore a criminal act to borrow monies at the last hour of handover to another government. It is not acceptable, it is fraudulent in action, and we totally reject any more borrowing from this outgoing Buhari administration. Meanwhile, the ones you borrowed in the past have been stolen into personal pockets, and nothing have been done to investigate the biggest looting witnessed in this regime so far. For us, in the Vote Must Count International Initiative, the Buhari administration is the most electoral violated administration coupled with disrespect for the rule of law in the history of Nigeria. This government is corrupt and is labeled as a chronic supporter of the abuse of office by its appointees over the years. Gentlemen of the press, it is very clear that the Buhari APC-led government has just 50 days to leave office, and it has surely left us much more divided as a country than any administration in history. We call on the next administration to be declared by the judiciary after the 2023 presidential litigation to swing into action by creating a national reconciliation agency that will help heal the wounds mattered on Nigerians by Buhari, APC, and INEC put together as a political gang of electoral crooks. It is very clear that since 2015, Nigeria entered the hands of some unfortunate political confucionists that have shown no clue on how to navigate a positive direction for the democracy of the nation, thereby putting the country under pressure at every point in time. On this note, it should also be noticed that our politics have suffered a serious spill in the areas of governance, thereby not demonstrating.
Gentlemen of the press and Nigerians, I'm Honorable Lucky Obiyan, the President of African Emancipation Movement for Good Governance, in accordance with the Vote Must Count initiative. Like you all know, this is the 6th series of our meeting since after the presidential election on the 25th. Let me begin by lending our voice along with Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, who during the weekend actually tried to remind the judiciary, the Supreme Court to be precise, about how travesty of justice turned nations into the dustbins of judgment. He tried to remind the Supreme Court that they should remain apolitical, neutral during the presidential litigation. And it is on that premise we are also anchoring our demand that the Supreme Court should, as a matter of fact and urgency and national importance, to remain neutral whenever the presidential litigation moves from the appellate court to the Supreme Court. We still remain on our stand in regards to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, for him to recuse himself together with Justice Emeka Wente. They should recuse themselves from presiding over the presidential litigation in order to ensure fairness, justice, equity. And we are also appealing to the courts of appeal and the Supreme Court to allow cameras into their courtroom. Kenya did it. South Africa did it. I see no reason why we cannot do it in this part of the world. Let Nigerians have access to justice, both in the diaspora and within the shores of this country. Allow cameras into your courtroom. That will promote fairness. That will instigate confidence amongst the people. Secondly, I want to, as a matter of fact, issue a warning to the baby minister of labor and productivity, Festus Keyamo, to please desist from maligning the character of one of the presidential candidates of the 25th February general election. The man who Nigerians actually voted for, the man who actually won this election. he should desist. Himself and FFK, Femi Fani Kayode, they should desist from assassinating the character of this wonderful, prestigious young man. The man who actually led the Labour Party to the presidential polls, the flag bearer of the election, presidential election. They don't have the monopoly of issuing invectives on this character. We also want to call on the Honorable Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. His recent onslaught in the United States of America, engaging the international press, moving from one press station to another, all to discredit one of the principal contender of the 23 presidential general election that just took place. Nigerians were robbed from the polls. Nigerians were robbed of their mandate. As Vote Must Count initiative indicates, our vote must count. Our mandate must be restored. Our mandate must be restored. We have continually called on the federal government to disband the transition committee that has been set up by the president, with Boss Mustafa as the head of that transition committee. That committee should be replaced with an interim government to ensure a smooth sail of the presidential litigation. That is our stand. And finally, I round up with this. The Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, Nigerian judiciary in its entirety is on trial. This is an opportunity for the judiciary to resurrect its integrity and realign with other nations where justice is actually for the common man and not for the highest bidder. So we call upon the judiciary to watch history with posterity before them. Try in as much as possible to launder the almost battered image of the arm of government that is most useful to the Nigerian people. Please, your integrity is on trial. Try in as much as possible to be fair in adjudicating the presidential litigation. Vote Must Count initiative will continue to stand on the path of truth as it remains an apolitical organization. Our vote must count. Thank you.
I am Ugedengwe Ayodele Monday. I am the president of Global Center for Leadership and Good Governance. We have of recent seen our country slide to a failed state with a kind of kangaroo election that is conducted by the INEC as supervised by Mahmoud Yakubu. Therefore, with this quagmire, a lot of people have come with different suggestions. Just like the way the doctrine of necessity was manufactured in National Assembly to bring in President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan to power when, in the demise of the death of our late president, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. The call or the suggestion for interim government is just an opinion to save our nation from the quagmire of the mandate of procured election through violence in our country. We want to speak to the anti-democratic element that have suddenly sprung up. These are the same people who claim to have defended Nigeria and brought Nigeria to democracy from the hands of the military juntas. But today, the same people who allay to this claim are those people who have become anti-democratic in our system today, and their true color has been revealed. People like Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is a member of NADECO, if they genuinely actually had fought for Nigeria democracy, they will not see to the destruction of our nascent, young growing democracy. We therefore call upon the international community to raise their hammer against anybody who intend to destroy the democracy that we have chosen as a path to leadership in Nigeria. People like Lai Mohammed, Fani Kayode, Dele Alake, Festus Keyamo, MC Oluomo, and Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who have in different way used derogatory languages that are divisive and capable of destroying the peace in our country, must be called to order, both locally and internationally. The most surprising of them all is the recent outburst of Prof Wole Soyinka. It's most unexpected of him, it's most unlikely of him to have put himself in the most derogatory part to, instead of condemning the utterances of people like MC Oluomo and Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who said that power is not served in the restaurant, it's not served a la carte, that it has to be grabbed, it has to be stolen. He didn't condemn them, or he chose to toe their part by going to condemn the one who is beaten, that he must not cry. The security agency must be neutral and must be seen to be neutral. It should be known that nobody has monopoly of violence. The Nigeria government, the APC, and the security agencies must be seen to do the right thing at all times, so that they will not throw our country off balance. The international community must rise up to its responsibility to deal with anybody without any fear or favor. The Nigerian judiciary must rise above board to help save our country from collapse by doing the right thing. The masses also must speak against the tyranny of the few who have captured our common patrimony to commit our country into modern slavery. We therefore call on the courts of our land to speed up justice to align with the swearing in of the president-elect, so that we'll be able to know if he's qualified or not, as requested by other candidates in the court. The PDP candidate has gone to court. The Labour Party candidate has gone to court. The ADC candidate have also gone to court to challenge the election. Therefore, the judiciary must speed up action on the request of other political parties. Thank you.
You see, in the case of the judiciary, they are doing their job based on the activities of the electioneering process. Remember that the 2023 electioneering process will not end until the Supreme Court gives a final verdict and a resting case on the issue of the presidential litigations. Hope you know that. So now, and the Electoral Act says there's a window for a review. And as I'm speaking to you, the only individual who has the right to cancel the 2023 presidential election is President Muhammadu Buhari as president of Nigeria. Okay? He can cancel it even before the court of law because he has the veto power. And that is the only way he can redeem himself as a president. The Nigerian people does not believe in the administration of President Buhari anymore. That's why we have decided to ask for an interim government. In regards to the issues of the litigation that has an extension of 1 month over the transition of change of power, that's why the Nigerian people say, since we have 1 month extra, why not give us an interim government that will now adjudicate the process for the real person who ends up being president over the court case? Because by the time you hand over power to Ahmed Bola Tinubu May 29, the court case continues. And what about if the court ends up bringing another person like Peter Obi or Atiku as president? It means that there will be a total waste of time. So that's why we are asking that since the Nigerian people have no trust on the leadership of President Buhari anymore, on May 29, Buhari should set up an interim government as our advice, so that that interim government will now continue with the litigation of the presidential issues. So when the Supreme Court gives out verdict, then the real person will be sworn in. That's what we are saying. And for the issue of...
this is not the first time.
It's not the first time, so we will not continue to sit down where something wrong will be admitted on the Nigerian people. This is an error that should be changed, that should be worked on. Like the issue of Goodluck Jonathan taking over power from Yaradua, the late Yaradua. It took them some time, and that was not in our constitution. But at the end of the day, a decision was reached. So it's not a crime to ask the president to do the needful. We are asking for an interim government because we know that that's the soft landing for Nigeria to maintain the pandemonium we found ourselves. And the issue of the man called Wole Soyinka, that is somebody the whole world respects. So if you are respected and given an award as a father of the house, have you not seen where a woman call herself a widow when the husband is not able to cater for her? It's the same case. In the capacity of the person of Wole Soyinka, he should be one of the least people that should not even talk at this time. But he is already there, adding his voice to an illegitimate pronouncement of somebody who did not win election, that the whole world knows. Remember that we as independent, which he condemned. You cannot condemn and at the same time come again from the other side to now start putting a support voice. So for us, and for the record, we want the professorship certificate of that man called Wole Soyinka withdrawn. And the same Nobel laureate award for Wole Soyinka from the Swedish Academy, it should be withdrawn. So that every other person who has the same credibility in the past and ends up deciding to disgrace himself and his family should not be called off. It's time for Nigeria to call out people who commit crime to pay for the fact that they have committed this crime. When you call them out, when you shame them, at the end of the day, those behind them will not commit the same crime. So in the issue of Hassan Koka, you see, as a father, he has said his own bit. But the fact is that there's nobody that can tell us that asking for an interim government is unconstitutional. It is not in the Constitution does not mean that it is not supposed to be requested by the Nigerian people. It's a request, and it is only the government of President Muhammadu Buhari at the moment that can grant it. If he's not granting it, he should hold a press conference and tell Nigerians who are asking that I can't do this for a reason, and he will tell us the facts. That's what we are saying. And for the issue of every other condition that should be seen as cold people in the issues of treason, there's nothing wrong in asking for an interim government. We are not forcing the government to do it, but we are forcing them to yield to our call. And the biggest crime in humanity that is even bigger, that is even treasonable, is when an election is defrauded. And we have seen this. The DSS or anyone who is in charge of issues of making Nigeria united and peaceful should go and arrest people who are talking from the two sides of their mouth, like Nasir El-Rufai, Nyesom Wike, or MC Olomo, Ahmed Bola Tinubu himself, and Femi Fani-Kayode, and the baby minister called Festus Keyamo. Those are the people that should be arrested. Those are the people that should be called to order, because their voice right now is causing chaos across the polity. And if we don't speak, it will continue. We were in this country in 2011 and 2015 when President Muhammadu Buhari himself made statements backed by the APC that they will form a parallel government. Our own parallel government we are forming is not a treasonable offense. It is a decision to disagree with whatever decision this President Muhammadu Buhari's administration will take come May 29. If they are in one side forming their government of Ahmed Bola Tinubu as president, we will be in the other side forming a government that will declare a winner for 2023 presidential election, which we already have the result. We have the result because we have agents scattered across Nigeria. It's going to be peaceful. We are going to announce the result, announce the winner, and declare the winner our own president. So it will be the president of the Nigerian masses. Because we have totally rejected the result provided by INEC as fake and false. So practically, come May 29, wherever we are going to do it, we are going to declare the winner of the Beavers. The winner is presented by the Beavers as president of Nigeria, as president of the Nigerian masses. And we will adhere to whatever the law says. It's not treasonable, and the fact remains that the right thing is being done. We are not fighting anybody. We are doing it peacefully. And if the president does not want to give us that request, it's a simple thing. He comes up and says, "My children, as your father, we don't want interim government. This is what we want," and we will obey. But for now, we'll keep demanding, and we'll keep demanding the release of the results given by the Beavers that have stated that somebody has won.